Welcome to the Matador Pencast, a monthly book show from the UK's #1 self-publishing company. Here's your host, writer and broadcaster, Tony Horne.
Hello again, and a warm welcome to the Pencast from Matador, the UK's leading self-publishing company. My name is Tony Horne, here to talk you through the next sequence of features on our monthly broadcast. Today, featuring the latest news from Matador with our main man, Jeremy Thompson. Plus, we'll be telling you all about the IPG Conference. What is it? And we have an author interview with David Robertson. And Jeremy and Jane will look back at the self-publishing conference, which has just happened in Leicester on May the 7th. So let's crack on with the very latest news from the world of self-publishing. Here is our managing director, Jeremy Thompson.
Thank you, Tony. Now, it's been a busy start to 2016 at Matador, and we're about to enter an even busier period in the spring. More about that in a moment. But first, news of a new magazine from Matador. Highlights magazine launches at the London Book Fair in April, and it's already available to read on our website. Alice Graham is the editor. Alice, what's the thinking behind the new magazine?
Well, it's a revamped version of our previous catalogue, but it also combines all the aspects of a magazine. So it has different things from extracts through to staff picks. So obviously you get to see what Troubador members of staff think about upcoming books. It also has an exclusively ebook corner, so you can see everything that's going on in the world of ebooks as well. It includes media coverage, so a lot of different aspects that the catalogue didn't previously have before.
So the idea really is that it's going to combine the functions of a catalogue but also be a much more appealing publication to a much wider audience.
Yeah, so it's more user-friendly than it was before, so hopefully it will appeal to a wider audience, and it's also more aesthetically pleasing as well.
And I understand it's going to have a much wider distribution than the Troubador catalogue used to have, is that right?
Yes, so it's going out to all of our top customers as well as independent bookshops. It goes out at events, so the book fair, any conferences and other events that we go to. It also goes out to media outlets who request copies of the booklet throughout the year.
So you'll be able to read Highlights magazine on our website, where it's going to be available as a flip book. Just follow the link on our homepage. Now, spring is always a busy time for us, and this year looks like it'll be no exception. It's the London Book Fair in April, the 12th to the 14th at Olympia, where we'll be exhibiting for the 10th year in a row. I would expect we'll crack open a bottle or two in the evening to celebrate our anniversary. Now, it's a trade fair that's vitally important for any publisher which is serious about the books business, and options for authors at the fair are fairly limited. But if you're planning on attending, then do pop by our stand, which is 2C70, to say hello. We would love to see you. Just a couple of weeks after the book fair, we have our very own self-publishing conference, the fourth we've organised. This year it's on Saturday 7th of May, and it's already selling out quickly. Some great speakers and some really interesting sessions this year. More on the conference later in this Pencast. In the ebook world, news that US retailer Barnes & Noble is closing its UK Nook store. Ebook manager Rachel Gregory explains what impact that will have on Matador's authors.
The largest impact will come to consumers because it will limit where they're able to buy ebooks in the UK. It will also have an impact on publishers and authors as well, because it means that their distribution options are a little bit more limited.
So does this mean that Matador's ebooks that are currently distributed through Nook in the UK will no longer be available?
No, Sainsbury's Entertainment have kindly stepped in and agreed to continue to supply any ebooks that have already been sold to UK customers via Nook.
And we already supply Sainsbury's ebook, is that right?
We do indeed. They're an existing supplier for us.
So while Nook UK closing doesn't sound like very positive news, I understand that there is some good news on the ebook distribution front.
Yes, we've just signed a contract with BorrowBox. They're an Australian-based company who supply ebooks to libraries in the UK, Australia and New Zealand. So it's just another supplier to add to our list. And it's a really good one to add because libraries are a growing market for ebooks at the moment.
Thank you, Rachel. So that's the news for this edition. More news in next month's Pencast.
And there'll be more news next time on the Pencast. Now let's rejoin Jeremy and Jane Rowland as we look at the IPG Conference.
A very wet and chilly March saw Matador's directors Jeremy Thompson and Jane Rowland attending the IPG Conference in Oxfordshire. Jane, what exactly is the IPG?
IPG stands for the Independent Publishers Guild, and it's a member organisation that kind of supports independent publishers. So it goes from Faber and Faber, who are quite large, down to sort of very small publishing companies and all points in between. We have been a member for a long time, but we've never actually gone to their spring conference. We've gone to lots of their other events, but this was the first time we've gone to the actual spring conference.
What had an impact upon you most from the conference?
There was lots of talk about creativeness of independent publishers at the conference and how the smaller size of an indie publisher means that they're much more reactive to trends in the market. It's one of the things that actually sets an indie publisher apart from some of the big 5 publishers that we all know.
So what benefit does attending an event like this have for Matador?
For us, it's a great chance to go and learn what's new in the market, and for me, the most valid things that we learned at the conference are the things that we can apply to our everyday business. We learned some really useful stuff about websites, findability, discoverability, and also for me, because I'm a bit of a data head, some interesting ways of looking at analysing data differently so that we can target our marketing more effectively, which is actually really exciting and takes advantage of new technology.
Did any of these speakers particularly strike a chord with you?
One of the most thought-provoking speeches came from YSG from Elsevier. He was actually saying that publishers should look beyond the markets they know, so the Western markets, because literacy rates across the world are increasing, and actually in a few years' time the literacy rates in these countries such as Brazil, India, China will mean that those countries are actually a bigger market than the Western markets.
As an event, it sounds like something geared more towards publishers. Do you think the conference was of much relevance to self-publishers?
The one thing that surprised me the most about the conference that the IPG ran was how the focus was very much on the publisher and the book, and it really wasn't on the author at all. The author is the starting point for all books and writing, but they're not really seen that way by some of the more mainstream indie publishers. It's very different from the conference that we run in May, the Self-Publishing Conference, which takes the author as the starting point of the process. So I was surprised at how little the author featured in the content and the discussion, and actually the thinking behind current indie publishing.
So all in all, a good conference for a publisher, maybe not one for an author. Thank you, Jane.
Now on the Pencast, it's time for Meet the Author.
Time for our next guest on the Pencast. Here's David Robertson. Hi, David.
Hi there.
How you doing? What is your book?
My book is a children's book. It's called Dognapped. So, as you can probably guess, there's a bit of, what shall we say, kidnapping going on in it. Basically, it's about 4 doggy friends. There's Misty, who's a border collie, and the story's told from her point of view. There's Bertie, a terrier. He's as old as his long grey whiskers, and obviously, because he's so old, he knows a lot of things about a lot of things. So he's the guy who has all the big ideas.
Okay, it's a relief to discover Dognapped listed on Amazon, because I typed in your name and I found another David Robertson who's written books engaging with atheists, challenging atheist myths.
Oh, good Lord.
Why Jesus is great, and I thought, oh, what are we going to talk about? But Dognapped it is. And who are you aiming at, do you think?
I'm aiming at what they call middle grade, which is about 7 to 10 years of age. And
presumably this is going to be one of a series?
It will be, yes. Like I say, the second one, which is In The Doghouse, is now written. I'm waiting for the illustrator to do his bit, and then it'll go to the publisher.
Okay.
So,
and what did you do before Dognapped? What? Because everybody that writes has another life, don't they? I mean, they have a chosen path in life, up the career ladder. What was that for you?
I was a freelance engineer. I was a draftsman. So I worked on some very interesting projects. Actually, I used to work I worked a bit on the Olympics. I worked on what was the highest hydraulic platform in the world at the time.
Wow.
So, it's been quite interesting.
And when you
I've got to that age where it's time to hang up my mouse and do something else on it.
Yeah, and, a lot of us will say, until they, write that first one, that, stories nag away at you over a period of time during the day job, and then finally, finally you put it down, and that would be true for you, I guess, yeah?
That's right, yeah. I mean, there is a science fiction novel knocking about that I actually started in 2005, and one of these days I'll get round to finishing it, I think.
Well, it sounds like this is going to be your calling for the rest of your days on the planet.
I hope so, yeah. I'm really enjoying it. It's been very, very interesting.
Okay, so we wish you all the best. It's Dognapped, sorry.
That's right.
It's Dognapped. Do you have a website, a Twitter or Facebook, David?
I do. The website is www.mistybooks.net.
Okay.
And can I just mention that the illustrations in it are fantastic. They were done by a guy called Ian R. Ward, and they're absolutely fantastic, the illustrations.
And this is a real thing for children's books. Obviously, the colour and the artwork is important often as the writing. And
that's right, yeah.
I don't have that patience or that skill to see that through. I can't translate my words into pictures. Obviously, you've hired a professional there, but it is a massive part of a children's book, isn't it?
Well, of course it is, yeah. I mean, like I say, I was a draftsman myself, but that was technical drawing rather than caricatures, if you like. So, I'd be absolutely no good at that at all.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Good to have you on. Dognapped by David Robertson. Thank you very much for being our guest, David.
Thank you. Bye now.
Now, every year the Self-Publishing Conference takes place, and this year all roads headed to Leicester on May the 7th. Let's find out what the Self-Publishing Conference is all about.
It takes place at a fabulous conference venue at the University of Leicester, where over 140 delegates usually gather to hear speakers on a wide variety of subjects of relevance to self-publishers, those who are considering self-publishing, and also those who have already self-published. Let's hear what some of these speakers from previous years say about the event.
My name's Alison Owen. I'm the editor of the Writers and Artists Yearbook and the Children's Writers and Artists Yearbook, and I'm at the Troubador Self-Publishing Conference as the keynote speaker who's kicking off the day, and also involved in some of the sessions talking to people about self-publishing, some of the ways to go, and giving some advice from writers and artists on doing your research and thinking about what it is you want to achieve with your own book. The whole point of self-publishing conference is authors taking control of what they want to do, having a real sense of what it is publishing is, the various options open to them, thinking about what control they want to retain, whether they want something in print or electronic. And it's reminding, I think, delegates who are here today that they need to take their time, and they also need to be quite critical about some of the services that are out there in the industry. There's a plethora of new operations, and not all of them are good, unfortunately.
My name is Clive Herbert, and I'm the head of publisher services for Nielsen. Today, really, the thing I was asked to speak about was the importance of bibliographic, or some people call it metadata. But I think from the people who attend these conferences, years ago, in sort of old publishing, most people would have gone through an agent. They really were outsourcing the knowledge of the book business to the agent. So they were relying on the agent knowing about the business and being able to make the right choices from them. Whereas if you're now self-publishing, you need that business information. And by coming to an event like this, you can start to build your knowledge of the book business and therefore make the right decisions for you, what services you need or how you need to proceed.
I'm Helen Hollick, and I write books, and I'm the managing editor for the Historical Novel Society Indie Reviews. I'm here today to really talk about reviews for books. That's quite a varied subject, because if you want to get a good review, you've got to write a good book in the first place, and you've got to present it properly. No reviewer is going to look at your book if it's badly presented, if it's the wrong font, if it's left justified, if it hasn't got a title on the cover. I did actually have a book submitted to me that had no title on it. Who's going to read your book? If you want a good review, make sure that you've got a good book.
And let's hear from a couple of delegates.
My name's Sarah Gilani. Well, I'm really interested in publishing my own children's novel. It's for 8 to 12-year-olds. And I was very keen to know about, the whole of the publishing sector. I suppose I'd like to know a lot more about the publishing industry, if you like. I think it would make me a better writer as well. Everything that I need to know, I think, is covered by today. So I was really impressed by the range of workshops.
My name's Tim Bradley. As a debut novelist with my first book out this August, Arnie Jenks and the House of Strangers, there's a lot to think about because the process of self-publishing does start with a manuscript, but very clearly there's a number of important ingredients to impact on that very quickly. So I think listening to personal experience from authors alike, but also people who are publishing, self-publishing, and also ex-editors and people in the old traditional publishing industry, just about the way they're having to work, just gives you a sort of freshness and a freedom for what's possible.
In addition, there are over 16 other sessions to choose from, ranging from subjects as diverse as audiobooks to selling to retailers, using your author website, and a very interesting session on erasing the stigma of self-publishing, given by Debbie Young of the Alliance of Independent Authors.
And that is it for this edition of the Pencast. There's plenty more at troubadour.co.uk. Thanks for listening. Keep spreading the word. I'm Tony Horne, and I'll see you next time as the Pencast continues.
The Matador Pencast is written and produced by Sarah Taylor and Horny Media. If you'd like to feature next time, please follow the link on the Matador website. And don't forget to check out more on your host at tonyhornebooks.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on the first of every month as the Matador Pencast continues.